Hey everyone, JB's back again, and today I wanted to take on the subject of religion and what's the harm in that. Uh, Many people look at religion in general as harmless, right? If someone's a devout Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Jew, or whatever, and given that they're not some kind of extremist, then they're generally considered to be a good God-fearing person. What's the harm in letting them pray to their God or practice their religion? What's the harm if they want to raise their kids to believe these ideals, which are supposed to make them better people? What's the harm in any of that? Well, first off, let's be brutally honest. While there may be little to no harm in allowing people to worship as they please, as we've seen throughout history, there absolutely is harm in what people have done with their interpretations of these fairy tales. More people have died throughout the history of recorded time at the hands of religion than anything else. More people have killed in the name of their God and religion than any other thing. More people run around hating one another for their differences due to what is taught in their holy books, and that makes me sick. They use religion and God as a cover for their hate, bigotry, and intolerance. I am not okay with that. Once upon a time, blacks weren't allowed to marry whites, and the Bible thumpers were right there on the front lines holding their Bibles to tell us why the Bible, and more specifically their God, was against it. Oh, they might be quick to tell you that it wasn't their personal view, but the Bible said it, and therefore interracial marriage was an abomination, and it was their duty to stand against it. Today, gays are fighting for equal rights, but once again, there are the Bible thumpers doing what they do so well again, spewing their hate in the name of God. Really? Is that what your God wants you to do? Does your God want you to hate people because they're not like you, or share your views or opinions? Does your God condone you killing another person or people because they're not completely in line with your ideals? I guess you think that God wants us all to believe the same things, and eat the same food, and listen to the same music, and look the same, and love the same. Because the world would really be a perfect place then, wouldn't it? People killing in the name of religion, definitely not a new thing. The Crusades were Christians murdering Muslims to gain control of Jerusalem, the Holy Land, just because that's where Jesus spent most of his life and where he was crucified. I guess it didn't matter to them that Muslims also held that land sacred due to their founder, the Prophet Muhammad, living there. Funny how they call themselves crusaders like they were out on some noble mission, when the truth was they were killing into the millions without remorse just to take land that was not theirs to begin with. In another such example, the Holocaust, was Hitler doing much of the same, attempting to wipe out a race because of his biblically motivated hate toward the Jews. Then there were things like the Salem witch hunt, etc., etc. I could go on and on. There's just no shortage of events for me to pick from. These are just a few examples of many such events throughout history where religion was used to justify mass murder in the name of God. Based on that alone, if there really was a God who allowed such things to happen in his name, I wouldn't be buying what he was selling. The question I ask is, why is anyone buying this stuff? You see things like this, and you can't tell me religion is harmless. But let's take another path here. It's too easy to go on about all the hate and anger and killing that stems from the various misinterpretations of religion, which itself is a fabrication anyhow. Let's look at a few other ways that it can cause harm. One example would be when Pope Benedict took a trip to Africa a few years back, and because the Catholic Church sees contraception as a sin, he actually had the gall to stand in front of a continent most riddled by death from AIDS and HIV infections and tell them that it was not okay to use condoms. Really, Pope? Really? Condoms are bad in the eyes of your God, so you tell these people, who pretty much stand greater than 1 in 5 chance of contracting HIV through sexual contact, that God doesn't want them to protect themselves, that it's a sin to do so. Good job, Pope. I'm sure there are many more thousands suffering and dying today due to the good work you did there in Africa, in the name of God. You hear stories like this, and you can't tell me that religion is harmless. Let me take you to another, more recent situation. Moore, Oklahoma was absolutely decimated by that EF5 tornado, the most destructive category of tornado there is. Many men, women, children killed. A town was obliterated, leaving it resembling a war zone. Or worse, at least a war zone leaves rubble behind, but in some places there wasn't even rubble left to be found, just completely wiped out. At a time like this, it becomes the trendy and fashionable thing to say prayers to Oklahoma or things along those lines. You see, there are some, not all, but some religious folks out there who actually believe that sending their prayers is good enough to help. They feel good about themselves for saying a prayer, and they figure that God will answer if He deems fit to do so. This is a major problem, folks. If you want to help the people of Moore, Oklahoma, they need real help, not your prayers. They need food, medicine, clothing, shelter, and you can't pray that stuff into their lives. I'm sorry, you just can't. So I see all these friends of mine on Facebook sending their prayers, thoughts, wishes. How about sending some money, food, or donating some clothes? How about actually doing something that will help? Instead, a lot of the Bible thumpers will sit back, relax, feeling proud of their contribution of prayer to help the situation and more, and many of them are all too happy to spread the word of their prayer contributions, sparking others to think in a similar manner. And in the end, you have a lot of people who actually end up doing nothing to help. Like I said in my introductory video, video number 1, I'm an atheist, but that doesn't make me evil or morally bankrupt. I'm all about helping people, especially when they're in need, and prayers just don't qualify, in my book, as any sort of help at all. If some of these self-righteous religious types had their way, they'd spread the word that prayer was all that was needed, and the people of Moore, Oklahoma would be suffering without food, clothing, medicine, shelter, and many other basic needs for survival. You can't seriously look me in the eye and tell me that there is no harm in that. This is America, and I fully support the right for each of us to have our own belief. Does anyone remember Thomas Jefferson's lines in the Declaration of Independence about all men are created equal and our unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? It's funny how our country was founded on these words, but I guess to theists, these rights don't exist if you're gay, or in the past if you were black, or going a bit further back if you were a woman. I guess the Declaration of Independence shouldn't apply to anyone that doesn't believe in God. I don't know what gives any religious establishment the right to deny anyone anything because we don't see things the way they do. I don't know why recently a group of Orthodox Christian priests decided to show up at a gay pride parade in Georgia and start whipping gays with stinging nettles because, well, they were gay. And that is unacceptable in the eyes of their God. Well, you know what, Orthodox priests? It's unacceptable in my world for you to show up and inflict harm on others because they don't live by your standards. This is where I draw the line. The world is slowly starting to come around. They are beginning to wake up. And not just with gay issues, in which the majority of Americans now favor gay marriage, gay rights, and equality, but also with issues pertaining to human rights as a whole, and the fake institution that we call the church. Once again, though, at the risk of sounding a bit repetitive, you can't hear these types of stories and then tell me with a straight face that there's no harm in religion. Throughout history, religion has existed to control the masses. In some cases, religion has even been used to kill in the name of God or Allah or whatever because certain groups didn't want to conform to the beliefs of others. To anyone who would dare tell me that there is no harm in religion, allow me to respond by saying, what rock have you been hiding under? How can you listen to anything I've just said and tell me that religion is 100% harmless? If you can make such a statement with a straight face, then you're obviously living in that bubble. You're comfortable there, and no matter what kind of sense, reason, logic, or facts anyone hits you with, you'll continue to be happy, remaining numb and senseless, just like the other sheep. That is your choice. You can choose to do so, and you have every right to. I, however, will continue to see things for what they are. I'll use the truth as my Bible. So, in signing off, I once again urge you all to do your own research, come up with your own conclusions, and be good to one another. Until next time.